Hey, you guys. Today is a very different episode from what is typical for us. Instead of interviewing a guest, Mercedes is going to interview me on a recent experience I had after a combo ceremony. It is my hopes that through speaking about my experience, others are prevented from going through what I went through and experiencing that type of trauma. My goal here is to not demonize the medicine itself or blame anyone either. However, I would like to get the International Association of Kambo to take this seriously because this has happened to others.
Yes. And Jade, as we know, we almost lost you. And obviously, this is a risk with taking this medicine. Otherwise, it would not have happened with you. And I'd like for you to share what exactly did happen, what your healing journey was, and what your takeaways were from this experience. So let's go ahead and start with telling us what combo is, how it's administered. Let's start there.
Okay, so I'm not a combo practitioner, so I don't know all the sciences behind why combo is a powerful detox modality or what it does scientifically in the system that causes that effect. But I do know that combo is a frog secretion from the Amazon. And basically, there are practitioners. Some people are not practitioners, and they're just, and I've seen it become very popular on Facebook to just say, hey, I have combo, come on over if you want to do some. And people are just administering it freely. So that was where I saw, like, dang, I really need to get this information out there because people do not realize how dangerous this can be if not done, with very strong reverence and discernment. But basically, for those who are practitioners, they typically get trained through an organization like I.A.K.P, which is the International Association of Combo Practitioners, or Tribal Detox. There's a couple of other ones that I'm not as familiar with, but those are the two that I know a lot of people get trained through. So basically, what happens is a practitioner will burn like a blister into your skin. And once that blister, it becomes like that open wound, they will put the frog secretion on top of that open wound. And then that frog secretion then enters your system. Some people I know only do 1 dot, and it's extremely beneficial for things like their Lyme disease. It's how they've literally survived with their conditions. Other people will, go through a practitioner and do 3 or 4 dots their first time. Some people, though, will even do like 8 dots their first time. I believe that, as far as I know, practitioners typically do not do more than 12 dots. We've had a lot of people on our show that have done combo, mostly men, and some of them have started with 6 dots, and it was a very aggressive medicine for them. I personally only know a few women that have done it, and none of them have done more than 4 dots. I did 4 on my very first combo ceremony, my only combo ceremony, and it will remain that way. But that is how it's administered, and that's basically what it is. What the benefits with this medicine are supposed to be like very anti-parasitic, very antifungal. It's supposed to like detox your body from anything, that is not of your highest good, but also energetically as well. But also why it's become so trendy right now, I think, is because it's supposed to make you pretty much immune to the virus because it boosts your immune system so strongly. A lot of people, a lot of people also do it when they're trying to like get rid of their addiction to caffeine, because you have to abstain from caffeine for like the day, a day to 3 days prior. And then you don't even want caffeine after because you have this like buzz. And so it gives you this like boost of energy. It gives you like a lot of people feel really cleaned out energetically and internally because the way that I.A.K.P has people doing it is you drink like 2 to 3 liters of water and then you like purge pretty much all the toxins and all of the stuck energy in your body, and you get rid of all of that. But a lot of people also purge out of the other end. And so they're just completely cleaned out energetically and, internally. So that's why a lot of people are drawn to it, is because they feel that those benefits are worth the 30 minutes that you're on it, where you feel basically like you have the flu. You feel like your skin is on fire and it's like itching, and you feel like you have a fever, basically. You feel like, to me, it feels like the flu.
Yeah, your body's getting ready to reject a poison, like when there's a virus in you. So, and this is a modality that you came to, even though you've done other plant medicines, we've talked about on the show a lot, and you've experimented with these other realms. What was it that made you want to do this in the first place? I mean, I heard you tell us about the different things that sound like benefits, but I know both of us question the silver bullet, when someone says, oh, this thing will do all these things. It'll eradicate COVID from your body. It'll cleanse you out. It'll emotionally.
This one thing will make you rich.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, anytime it's the one thing, there's a little red flag there. But
what was it that made you really called to do this particular medicine besides the benefits that you listed there?
Well, I'll start with saying I did this medicine on February 10th, and around early December, so a good 2 months prior, I started to have a dream repeatedly. And I know when the dream is repeating, there's a message there. Started to have a dream repeatedly and all the dreams were different, whether I was hanging out with Ryan Gosling or I was, gardening, like whatever it may be, whether I was hanging out with you, all the dreams were different. But no matter what, at the end of the dream, I was looking for a new place. I was looking to move into a new place, or I was moving into a new place every single dream. The other theme, though, was that all of those places I was moving into were fixer-uppers. Like every single one of them was like, well, I can make this do, or like, well, we got a fixer-upper on our hands. And I, for those 2 months, like really tried to figure out what is this new place that's a fixer-upper. And I had different interpretations coming at me. I thought maybe I just needed to step into this new body of mine from all this sexual trauma work that I had done. I thought maybe I needed to heal things in my relationship so that I wasn't just treating each relationship like a fixer-upper, like calling that in. I didn't know what it was, but these interpretations were like coming to me with like, okay, that's good. But nothing was like, oh, that's it. After Kambo, it hit me that I was the fixer-upper. I was treating myself like a fixer-upper. I needed to do all the ceremonies. I needed to do all the modalities that the men around me, the kings around me were doing because I admired their intellect and I wanted my mind to be as open and conscious as theirs. So I thought, well, I'll do what they're doing. It's obviously working. And this Kambo not only was someone in my community the practitioner, but a lot of the men in my community were really enjoying the effects of Kambo. And even though they were, crawling to the bathroom with diarrhea or getting nosebleeds or feeling like absolute crap during it, they still kept going back because of the benefits they felt. And I just thought, and they had invited me to it. And I remember the first time I was going to do it, I couldn't because it was too close to my MDMA and my 5-MeO ceremony. But there was this feeling of relief, like, oh, okay, sorry, I can't do it this time. I'll catch you on the next one. And so there's this feeling of relief. The second time it came around, I again didn't want to do it because I don't like physical pain. I didn't even like the idea of a blister on my skin. So I wouldn't say that I was even drawn to it. I actually felt a strong resistance to it, but I thought that was my ego. And just like when we don't want to go to the gym, but we know we need to do it, I thought that's what was happening. And so my inner critic was very loud, telling me, kill your ego and show up, be a warrior, push your edge. And what was actually happening is, instead of that being what I thought was my inner warrior, it was my inner critic silencing my inner warrior. And so I went ahead and showed up to it anyways, even though I kept getting these full body no's. I show up and I'm the only woman there. And all of the men around me are men that I look up to, men that I consider kings. And there was even this feeling of like, you're a warrior. Look what you're doing. Look what you can do. There was that feeling, but there was also this feeling of like, I do not want to do this, especially seeing what Kyle was going through and Eric Gotzi, seeing what they were going through, which I look up to them so much, but seeing what they were going through, I was last in line. So I had already seen their process and I thought, shoot.
Now, is it immediate that it has a response? Okay.
Yeah, immediate within minutes.
So you've already drinking the water before you get to the ceremony.
You drink a liter of water like in the hour before.
Yeah.
Then they put the medicine on and you drink like another liter.
Okay.
So your belly is like extremely full.
And so now they burn the blisters, they put the medicine on, and the medicine like
spreads. Yeah.
Reaction,
yeah. And
like within minutes.
Yeah. You have an immediate reaction, like whether it's diarrhea or vomiting or
so you're watching these guys crawl on the ground and vomiting and bleeding through their nose and whatnot.
Yeah. But I'm also seeing them come out of it and encouraging me, and no fault on them, but they were encouraging me. So I thought, well, must have not been that bad.
Yeah.
Like they're fine now, they're laughing, And so, and again, no blame like at all, but they're much bigger men than I am too. But so when it went up for my turn, the practitioner said, how are you feeling? And I said, I do not want to do this. Like that was literally my last word was I did not want to do it, but I made myself anyway. So that was again silencing my own inner queen. Like
intuition.
I projected my king so much onto these men that I didn't listen to my own inner queen because I didn't feel that she was as powerful as them and as meaningful, you know? And so there was that was the lesson there too, is like, I can hear my own inner queen's voice. I don't have to, you know, project onto everyone else and like treat myself as the fixer upper and they're the model home and I need to be like them, you know? So there were definitely lessons there. So I sit, you know, I'm resisting it, but I think I'm resisting my ego, or I think I'm like killing my ego. He administers it. I honestly didn't feel that bad. Like I didn't want to throw up. I didn't feel like I needed to throw up, but because I.A.K.P trains people to do it as a purgative medicine, they want you to force a purge. And so when I wasn't throwing up, the practitioner thought it best that I like stuck my finger down my throat. And because I was bulimic as a teenager, I had so much resistance to that. I did not want to stick my finger down my throat. And I felt so much like energy coming up in my body and resistance to that. And when that happened, I threw up on my own. And so I thought like, oh, maybe I was purging some of that, you know, body shame or guilt from how I treated my body as a teen, you know, because I was bulimic for years. Threw up. We all went downstairs. Like I was, you know, it passed.
Was it like very aggressive vomiting at that time yet?
No one even heard me. Like everyone was like, did you throw up? Because it wasn't aggressive actually at all. And also everyone else's was like green or red from blood and mine was clear. So that was also a part of me was like, did I get rid of it all? Because I also didn't like purge out of the other end like they did. We all go downstairs, we're eating, you know, chicken livers and hanging out. Everyone's great. And I go home, I do therapy on Zoom.
I think you're on the call with me at some point that day or the next day.
I do some work with you on the phone. I go to therapy, like everything felt fine. And then the next,
I remember, that day you were like, oh, I did Kambo, I think last night or the night before, whatever it was. And you're like, I feel okay. I have a little tummy, like a little upset tummy. And then we were on the phone for, I think, a couple hours doing some work on our workshop. And then I know shit hit the fan kind of literally there, not to make a joke of it, but.
Oh yeah, that is literally.
That is literally a pun we didn't mean there. So what happened about 24 hours after actually taking that medicine?
Yeah. So I took it at 11 a.m. around, you know, on the day that I did the ceremony. And I had some strong intentions there around the throat chakra, I will say. The next morning around 11 a.m., and this is before my kids are in school.
And just real quick, you had said throat chakra, you had set some intentions.
Yeah, my intentions with the medicine were to remove any blockages around money that I have with money and to remove any throat chakra blockages because I feel like I just in the last year, I feel like my throat chakra needs some work. And so those were my intentions. And then the next morning, and this is before my kids had started school, around 11 a.m., I just started to feel like I really had the flu. I was like blacking out. I was fainting. My partner normally would be at work at that time, but the roads had iced over, which they've iced over in the past, and he'd still had to gone to work. But for some reason, in the 8-9 years he's been at his company, this is the very first time that he ever was told to stay home. Even on the first day of COVID, when everyone was on lockdown, they made him go into work. So like this was definitely like God watching out for me, because first time they had him stay home. I was feigning blacking out. Neither of us were taking it that seriously for some reason at first. He was doing his thing, like working from home. I put on TV for the kids because I knew I couldn't be present. And then I barely even remember walking to the bathroom. And I walk to the bathroom, I sit on the toilet, and blood just starts projectile out of my body, out of both ends, also out of my ears. Like I had blood in my ears, like blood coming out of my butt, blood spewing out of my mouth. Tom walked in. I don't know if like one of the kids went and got Tom or what happened. Tom's my partner, but Tom walked in and he said it was like a horror scene. I was sitting on the toilet and there was just blood going down my body, going all over my legs. The toilet was full of blood. And at first I started calling people and they were like, oh no, it's normal to like still be sick the next day, because they didn't realize how intense this was. And so I was like trying to tell Tom, like, just calm down. This is normal, you know, while there's blood all over me. I was like, this is normal. And I felt like, you know, when you get blackout drunk and you start doing things that don't make sense. And then all of a sudden you like come to and you're like, oh, like that's how I felt. So I don't remember getting in the shower and rinsing the blood off, but I like came to.
So there's like gaps in your memory.
Yes. I like came to, and I was in the shower on my phone, like talking to Natasha about what was going on, just like standing underwater with my phone,
Whoa.
which is not something I would normally do. Of course, Tom's like urging me to go to the hospital. I'm telling him like, no, 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 this is normal. Like, this is fine. This is how the medicine works. Like, yeah. And he's like panicking. The kids are freaking out. I feel so bad that the kids were home for this. I get out of the shower.
And by the way, Tom is not usually, he's not one who uses much of the plant medicine. So this was a new experience. He had no idea what direction this was going to go.
Yeah. So I get out of the shower and I start projectile again, blood into the bathroom sink. I fill up the entire bathroom sink. And like, it's not just liquid blood. There's like clots of blood and strings of blood coming out of me that are like still attached, it seems like, inside. Oh, gosh. When that's happening, I start blacking out. I fall on the floor.
And now, do you feel like you're blacking out, not just from the blood loss, but because of the trauma of the situation?
I think that I was blacking out from the blood loss and the lightheadedness because it was internally bleeding, but also blacking out because my body, I was feeling, I kept saying, I'm dying. I'm dying. I kept saying that out loud. I'm dying. I couldn't even think I don't want to die or get the kids upstairs. Like I couldn't think any of that. All I could think was I'm dying. And when I was blacking out, more blood was projectiling out of me while I was like out of it. Tom was having to like wake me up. And I remember looking in the mirror, there's a full length mirror in our bathroom. My lips were blue and my skin was green. And I remember just thinking, and there wasn't even like contemplation of like, this isn't how I want to go.
Right.
I just knew I was dying. So I think that the blacking out was trying to escape the trauma, the way that you've listened to the show before, I blacked out during my sexual assault. So it was a way to survive almost. So Tom, the practitioner and Natasha are on the phone. Once they see what's actually happening, because this time it's FaceTime, they were like, oh no, this is not normal. Get her to the hospital, like go. Because I think when I was on the phone with them, I was like, not even aware of what was really going on. Once they saw it, they were like urging Tom to get me there. And then I think I was more compliant with Tom because I started to see in the mirror and get their reaction. And then he gets me in the car. I literally have a Home Depot bucket, one of those huge buckets in between my legs. And he's getting me to the hospital. I want to say within 30 minutes from that first projectile vomit, when I get to the hospital, I projectile more. They're literally handing me those plastic vial bags and I'm filling them up with blood. When I first got there, because of how I looked, they thought that I like took something to like kill myself or something. They were like, what did she take? And he was like, no, she took something called Kambo from the Amazon. And they're like, Amazon.com, like someone looked this up. Like no one had even heard of this. By the time they get me into a room immediately because I'm projectiling.
Can you even communicate to them at this point? Or
no, Tom's doing it all. I'm barely able to stay awake. Yeah. So they get me in the room and they test my levels and I had lost 6 units of blood already, which is like a lethal limit. So had Tom not gotten me there, like had I resisted him any longer, I'd be dead. Also, had Tom not
been home.
Yeah, I would have literally bled to death in front of my children. And so they give me 2 blood transfusions and they go in to figure out where the blood's coming from. Turns out that I had 3 tears in my esophagus. So, and my colon was so swollen, it like looked like it was shut. So they, Kambo, especially when you have that much water in your system, it like swells your organs, like the peptides go in and swells it. And so, a lot of people feel like their throat is swelling closed on the medicine. So it like went in and swelled, my organs, including my colon. And so I had to do a colonoscopy that, all of these medical bills at this point are like over 30 grand. So, and I don't have insurance, like America's great, but they go in, they find the tears, they put the clips on the tears, have the anesthesia. And then I'm in the hospital for, I believe, 4 or 5 days. And when I left the hospital, my hemoglobin was only at 8 because they can get you, once you're above 8, you're allowed to leave the hospital. So they gave me 2 blood transfusions. And then once I was at 8.2, they released me. So it takes your body 4 to 6 weeks to make 1 unit of blood. The average person is at 12 to 14 units. So it takes like from 8 units to 12 units. That's like a good 4 to 6 months worth of work. Okay. And this has only happened 2 months ago. So I'm still trying to, replenish. And, I went in for a colonoscopy because they thought like her colon is so closed that it's either Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis or something. But when they waited a period of time, went in, checked the clips, checked the colon was completely back to normal. So it was the Kambo that swelled it. Yeah.
So, hearing this story, it's terrifying, to be honest. And coming from me, especially, like I'm not a practitioner of any kind in plant medicines. I'm not, involved in that world really, besides hearing the stories of people who come on our show and hearing your stories about it. And most of it terrifies me, or at least is just like, I'm not sure that's worth the risk for me. Now, I will say that I've benefited deeply from people who have experimented with plant medicine because of the revelations that they've come to through it, the healing they've come to through it. So obviously it's extraordinarily valuable for many, many, many people. So I'm really curious to know when all this happened, because you did it with your tribe, you were with community, you knew that this was something, the I.A.K.P, the way of doing this practice, you did it the way that they say is the way to do it. So what was the response from the community, medicine practitioners, plant medicine practitioners?
Yeah, that's an important question, because my initial response coming out of anesthesia, first of all, I had a lot of other people's blood in my body. So I did not feel like myself energetically. And that was a whole process to go through.
To mention the stress hormones that you went through dumped so much into your body. You have to detox that. It takes a long time.
I mean, I genuinely felt depressed for weeks, not days after this. And I would go sit in the sun and ask for healing from the sun, ask for joy from the sun, because even after the experience, when I came home, I felt so sick for a straight month, not days, like for a straight month. I would black out walking to the kitchen. And I remember—
What do you mean blackout? What do you mean?
Like I would start walking and all of a sudden everything would turn black and I'd have to grab the wall.
Like, a blood pressure issue.
But I just felt also like so crummy. And I remember thinking like, I told my body, like, if you want to go, we can go. Like, because I felt so depressed, and everything that I place meaning on in my life, whether it's being a light or being a parent, these things that are huge to me at this moment, they all felt meaningless. And I don't know if that was all of the other people's energy in my body, because who knows what they were struggling with. And then I took that into my own body.
You mean from the blood transfusion?
Right. Or if it was because I just felt so weak and ill. And when you're feeling like that, it is so hard to be positive, So in the middle of all that, though, the one thing I felt meaning around was figuring out why this happened, because if I could figure out why, I could prevent it from happening to others. And there was a lot of spiritual bypassing, not intentionally. I do this all the time. I hear what someone's going through and I make it spiritual right away. I'm like, oh, well, you have a blockage here, or, well, you're ignoring this, or you need to face this. And it's never my intention to spiritually bypass. It's never my intention to make it all spiritual. But a big lesson here was, me going through that myself. A lot of people were telling me, and people high up in the spiritual community that I aspire to be like, were telling me like, oh, you must have just had a big throat chakra blockage, or you don't need to know the why. This happened for a reason. And I could not be okay with that. And I felt like, well, but if I died, what's the point of the throat chakra blockage removal? Or if I died in front of my kids, how can we say this is just how it was meant to be? Like, there's something more here that needs to be looked at medically, like procedure, like we need to look at what went wrong, because this is a fad, especially in Austin right now, is to do these Kambo ceremonies. And there were a good chunk of people that wanted to help me find out, and they were trying to connect me to the right people. And the few things that we felt might have come up were an allergy to the medicine, which there's no way to know who has an allergy. Sure. There's someone who's really well known in the spiritual community that also went to the hospital after his Kambo ceremony because his throat swelled shut. So,
and I would say too, like when you're talking about an allergy, it's like, well, it's poison. So everyone's essentially alert, your body's going to resist it and not want to do it. Yeah. So some are going to maybe stronger than others. Yeah.
There's that. And then there's the thought, well, I was bulimic in my teenage years for years, like 4 or 5 years. So maybe I had micro tears, but
in
then
your throat.
Yeah. In my esophagus. But I also think, well, that was 20 years ago and I'm so freaking healthy. I had to have healed that. I was also throwing up daily when I was pregnant. So these could be, we haven't figured it out.
You mean you were throwing up daily when you were pregnant and you didn't have any blood issues, right? Throw up because
the difference though, that has been brought up by Tribal Detox, which is another Kambo organization. The difference is that Tribal Detox is another organization that trains practitioners. They literally branched off from I.A.K.P. A couple of the people from I.A.K.P. saw dozens of people getting hurt this way. And so they branched off, started Tribal Detox. This is what's been relayed to me. And Tribal Detox does like a quarter of a liter of water throughout the entire process. So the thought is, and what Tribal Detox was feeling was that it's the 2 liters of water that's like causing this extremely aggressive purgative. However,
like pressurized.
Right. But however, there's, ayahuasca retreats where they do a ton of water until you purge. So I think it's the mixture of a bunch of water with such an aggressive medicine, because Kambo is a very masculine, aggressive message. That's the other thing.
Medicine.
Right. Medicine. Our intuitive, Mary Margrave, when I, talked to her about this, she brought up, the scripture, like, this was not good, but it can be turned into good, but only, like we brought up the throat chakra blockage, only if I speak about it, and she also brought up, like, you're very rooted in the divine feminine, and this is a masculine drug. It is a can opener of a drug. You're not meant to work with those. Like, and even though Huachuma is a masculine drug, it's not a can opener of a drug. It is very, very lighthearted, like aggressive.
Oh,
but she said, and the intuitive had never heard of this medicine prior to this call, but even she said, when she tapped into that realm, she said, this is meant for men. Like, this was created for men to do before they went hunting. This is not meant for women. So here we have, could have been bulimia, could have been, the amount of water. I'm not sure, but I know that it had happened to 4 other people, the same in the last year. 4 other people. That's just that I know of. No bulimia. 1 was an alcoholic, so that could be esophagus issues. 1 had a recent car accident, and 1, I have no idea any of the causes, but I know there was no bulimia. So that's the only reason why I'm not sure. But one of those 4 people did die. My issue, and again, I wanted to speak about this on this podcast in integrity without blaming anybody, because my soul did choose this experience. Yeah. And I feel that the only good that can come out of it is if I prevent it from happening to others. And then also listen to the messages of not transgressing myself again like that, listening to my full body knows, not treating myself like a fixer-upper. But my issue is that with those 4 other cases, and even though my case was reported by the practitioner, my practitioner, who's a good friend and I love dearly, and I know he would have never administered this on me if he knew it could happen. And I don't even think he's practicing now. I'm not sure. But with those 4 cases, and with my case being reported, when they sent out their warning newsletter, they said there's only 2 in the past year, and that they can't say it's because of Kambo. It was not taken seriously whatsoever. There was no let's pause and find out the contraindications. I do think with a medicine like this, that is this aggressive and has caused a death and multiple other, and who knows, maybe they were on prescriptions they weren't supposed to be. I'm not sure, but either way, 4 people had esophagus tears in 1 year.
Yeah.
And so there needs to be some sort of contraindication list. And what my hunch is, again, I don't want to demonize I.A.K.P, but what my hunch is that they don't want this to be regulated by the FDA, because they want this to be easily accessible. And they know if this gets out there, they'll need it to be regulated.
Sure. And that brings up an interesting point, because you have experimented with so many different types of plant medicine, unregulated plant medicine, and you have done that on your own accord, in your community, and have gotten along well until this Kambo thing came up. What are your thoughts on that? Is it something that we should be regulating, or is it just a matter of warning people better?
Well, you look at the studies on mushrooms. There's so many studies on the mushrooms and MDMA when it comes to the brain and PTSD. It is getting regulated and it's being used in therapy. So yeah, I think that doing that is extremely beneficial.
The problem is when we go, okay, we're going to put regulations on it, means shutting it down and pausing, like you're saying, for a while until we figure that out.
Yeah. So it's tricky. And I know we talked about that in our episode with Dr. Dan. And I think that that's a really amazing episode to go listen to after this episode.
Because that pause may create an issue for the people with Lyme disease, or, someone who's finding a lot of value and healing benefits in doing a medicine like Kambo. And now they don't have access to that, because now, big government, FDA's decided to come in, or big pharma for that matter, is coming in and saying, oh no, we're going to take this over. We're also going to reap the benefits from it.
And we don't want people to be on less medication because they have access to Kambo. So they may try to also really over-regulate it. Yeah.
There's a lot of different facets.
But if I.A.K.P will at least take this seriously, maybe they just use less water. Maybe that's what they need to do. I don't know. But I know that it wasn't taken seriously, and that people are not aware of this happening. And the people that it did happen to, they didn't have a big following like I do. So I do want to use this experience to warn people, because like you said in the beginning, if this wasn't a risk, it wouldn't have happened. I literally almost bled to death in front of my children. And when we talk about other plant medicines as well, like I've done huachuma, ayahuasca, mushrooms, MDMA, and 5-MeO. I have never felt like not doing it. Like I've never thought like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Those were always full body yeses. Right now, I don't know if I'll ever do I don't know that I'll ever do 5-MeO again, because that was really a strong one. MDMA, like that's completely different. So that's like, was really healing in a therapy session. I don't know, like maybe I will need that one day. I'm not sure. I'll have to see if my body says yes or no. But as of right now, I don't feel any resistance to ayahuasca, huachuma, or mushrooms. Does that mean I'm like ready to do them? No, especially because ayahuasca is a purgative as well. But I don't feel a resistance to them or there's some danger here. Someone could die, or like something could tear, or there's too many contraindications. I don't feel like that about those at all. And I've been told by our intuitive and multiple other healers that I'm going to be serving huachuma one day. And that feels very resonant for me, which means I'm probably going to be taking huachuma as well. And I don't have any resistance to that. When it comes to Kambo, I truly feel, and again, I don't want to demonize medicine, because I know women who have Lyme and are benefiting from it, but they're doing 1 dot, not drinking any water. So that's completely different. But as far as the Kambo ceremonies, I truly feel like maybe they're not meant for women, or take the maybe out, because I said truly feel like they're not meant for women. And I truly feel like there needs to be a list of contraindications and risks with it. I think that I.A.K.P needs to relook at their training protocols, because this is not happening with tribal detox, where they use way less water and way less dots. So there needs to be a pause, at least in that training protocol, and figure out why this is happening to people. Again, it's becoming really popular. I'm at least once a week, I see a random person on Facebook say, I'm doing Kambo ceremonies at my house. If anyone wants to try out Kambo, come on over. And I'm looking these people up, and they're not in the database of, licensed practitioners. Yeah. So this has become something that's like a popular detox modality.
So through this journey that you've come through now with Kambo and all the other medicines that you have journeyed through or with, do you feel like there's a message in there, especially for people that are kind of pushing themselves into doing, because they feel like, oh, I got to do this, that, and the other. I got to do this many ceremonies.
Get my warrior.
Yeah,
I do. So,
or how I heal myself is do all these plant medicine ceremonies. Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of things that I feel like are really standing out to me in Austin, especially. Austin is very much large healing community. And I'm so thankful for that, because I wanted a buffalo heart within a month. I had one. I wanted to,
that's a random sentence.
I wanted to meditate on a vibration bed that was specific for that. Within 2 days, I was on one. Mm-hmm. It's like, when it comes to healing modalities in the Austin community, it's very accessible. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful for that. What I am noticing though, is that there's this chasing of experiences with these drugs. It's like a chasing of an experience instead of wanting to connect to source and nothing else. Because that is ultimately why we do these. It's to connect to source so that we can become more integrated. And integration is also so key. And if you're chasing experiences, you're not leaving space for the integration. But another thing, there is the warrior, like almost like a feeling of like,
I got to do
warrior and magician.
Myself. Yeah.
Because it's the fixing mentality of yourself and the warrior of like pushing your edge. But what I really feel is like a warrior is the peaceful warrior who protects everyone at all costs, the highest good of all. That's the mission of the warrior, including yourself. And pushing your edge like that, or pushing others to do psychedelics like that before they're ready, that's not the peaceful warrior. That's not protecting anyone. And so there's that, but also another thing that's really popular in Austin, and I love Austin. I feel like I'm ragging on it, but another really popular thing is to like jump in the ice bath and then the sauna and then the ice bath and then the sauna and do all the underwater like athletics and then, go in the circle. And when we approach our spiritual life like that, it's extremely dangerous because
you can re-traumatize.
Yeah, it opens up doors for re-traumatization while we're trying to heal our trauma. So we have to approach it with more reverence and with more discernment, major discernment.
And rest.
And ask, like, what do you feel? Is it a full body yes? If it's even a maybe and you're not sure if that's ego or spirit or what it is, then probably not like
wait.
time.
Just wait.
Just wait.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wait until you're fully called. And I know that every time I've worked with ayahuasca, with huachuma and mushrooms, I felt a full body excitement. Of course, with any psychedelic, there's a little bit of nervousness because it's a sacred drug. You're supposed to approach it with reverence. So of course you're going to be a little nervous, but there was no like, I don't want to do this, not once. And that is what I had with Kambo. And so if there is that smallest voice, then it's there for a reason.
I think there's a big piece that, comes up or comes to my mind as we talk about this stuff, and as we have in the past, that introspective work and that seeking, that seekers, as we're seekers, we're looking, and we're often looking outside for something external that can fix us.
Well, we're treating ourselves like the fixer-upper in my dream.
Yeah.
And that's a worthiness wound, of course, but that's where I was going. Sorry, John.
I'm sorry, because I don't know if these people are coming through the house. It might be.
I don't see anyone.
Someone just walked around the side.
Oh, they did. Oh, it may have been Becky.
So the seekers and external seeking, and then.
Oh, okay, John, hopefully this will just make sense. So another thing that my intuitive said was that in this lifetime, I've basically done like 3 lifetimes of healing work, and that I am always choosing the fastest and never the easiest healing modalities. And she said, it's okay to choose the easy ones. You don't always have to be ripping yourself open like that. And even though I feel like I already knew that, I had to go through Kambo to like
prove it to yourself.
Realize it, because before this, I was at every ceremony. I was literally, like she said, ripping myself open. And she said, like, the rest from now on, let the trauma unfold as it like
at its own pace.
Right. Yeah. Like, don't dig for it. And like, you've already done enough of that. Like, you've done enough.
Relax a little bit.
And like, now maybe train under an elder, maybe just have a bunch of sacred pauses, like she's like, you have enough now to integrate. And I sure as hell do, but that's a worthiness wound, is like.
Absolutely. And we as humans, I think we almost want to be on a team too. So when we get into something that really has helped us, we want to share it with the world.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes when the world looks at it and goes like, "Ooh, I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet," we have to figure out a way to show them, no, this is the way. And then we get really,
and we think they're reacting out of fear.
Right. And it's not always that. Maybe they just have a better.
Well, I know you and I both are very much in our magician, and it's like, it's a practice of holding space, because when someone
for where they're at,
and we do it to each other, we do it to others. Like when there can be something, we can push it to like, make it work,
force it,
make it a spiritual journey in this discussion to see what's at the root. You know what I mean? Like, we push it
and analyzing, and we get into all that.
Yeah. We're very much in our magician, but it's because that's how we treat ourselves, of course. But
which probably was the first indicator we need to relax on ourselves.
Yeah, and just slow down
and be kinder to ourselves.
Yeah. But yeah, my takeaways: stop treating myself like a fixer-upper. I'm not saying that I don't want to, or I won't benefit from them, but I don't need to constantly be doing every ceremony so that I can be of service. Because that's also, in my head, I thought I needed to do all these in order for me to be of service. And so that was a big takeaway, is like, I'm not a fixer-upper. I'm actually really good at fixing up now. Like, the job is never done. We're always a work in progress. That's, of course.
Be patient with that.
Yeah, we're always a work in progress, but I don't have to see myself as a fixer-upper that isn't as good as those in my community. So I must be doing all of these things. Otherwise, people are not going to benefit from my service, So there was that. And then not to transgress myself like that again.
Listen to the intuition, listen to the voice that says, I don't.
Yeah. Like that's become like a mantra. Like I promised myself, I will never transgress myself like that again. I will listen to my inner queen, and I will see her as valuable as all of those kings that surround me, because my voice is of value to them and to me.
Yeah. And stop putting people on a pedestal, others on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Or comparing yourself.
Or just, it's projection, And again, all of those men in my life that are kings, I've benefited so much from them. They're why a lot of my queen has been awakened, but I need to also now step into that, and so those are
become the
takeaways.
Forever student. It can be harmful as well, because at some point, okay, I'm going to do all the work.
And I love being in the student seat.
Learn, do all the work. But it's like, well, when do you actually become the sage? And when do you actually like slow down and be the wise woman and let all that stuff integrate so that you can finally give the gift that you think you're working so hard to be able to give? And sometimes we get so stuck in that one identity, it's hard to move.
And I know that you love words. We talked about projection and project. I was thinking the other day, because I wouldn't say that I was using plant medicines as a crutch, but I was definitely using it as my teacher.
Mhm.
And I didn't think about how I can connect to those medicines without taking them. Like I can connect to them as spirits. And my friend who did ayahuasca recently, she was a very strong grounding cord for me in all of this. She told me like ayahuasca wants you to remember that like you can call on her right now. Like I don't have to be sitting in ceremony with the cup. So there was that, but because I'm not using them as my teachers specifically right now, like I normally do, I have really had to
figure out how to rework that relationship.
But I've also had to realize how much I have within me that is accessible. I know that when we had the Gene Keys guy on, Richard Rudd, he said my shadow in my influence in the world was self-obsession. And I thought that was vanity, but he said, no, it's you think you need to read all the books and take all the courses and do all the ceremonies in order to be of service. And if you can just stop and have the art of contemplation, you'll realize that all of that is already within you when you connect to source. So here recently, especially before all these podcasts we've been doing, I've been really just sitting and asking for activation from source and from guides, from Mary Magdalene and from, Christ and from Jesus. I still get caught up calling him Christ when I know that wasn't his name. So I like to call him Yeshua. But anyhow, when I was sitting a couple of mornings ago before we were going to podcast, and I was feeling that activation and I was feeling that connection to source, and that was going to be where I spoke from. And I realized resource and source, like those two words, how we, so I know you love words. So I thought that was really cool. Like I'm going back to my resource.
Yeah, you're going to your resources.
Which is actually source. And so I like it. I'm not discouraging people from doing ceremonies that they feel yeses to.
They're beautiful resources.
Ayahuasca and Huachuman mushroom has changed my life. I know that they'll be in my path, but with things that are aggressive or that we don't know that much about yet, or that aren't, especially if we don't know where the person got the medicine or how they've been trained or, all of this stuff, we just need to use so much discernment.
Yeah. And again, it's like slow down. If it's not a full body yes, then just take a minute and let it figure itself out. Maybe it does never. And that means
get to know your voice too. Get to know the difference between your inner critic and your inner warrior, because they can sound so much the same.
Yeah. Or intuition, if some don't know what inner warrior would mean, but that is super important. I think we get it. So we just get caught up in trying to do it all instead of just be, and busy doing instead of busy being. And it's really takes a relaxing and a surrendering that is not taught in our culture. So that's maybe the lesson in it all is like, let's just slow down a little bit and reassess what's actually happening, touch the resource. And I think, I've sat with you and so many other experts we've had on the show and talked about plant medicine and talked about y'all's journeys. And what I can kind of surmise from it, or what I get from it, is that it's a beautiful modality for touching source. Like you're saying, it is a resource,
but it's not the only.
And it's not that it's not even the only. It's like, once you've touched it maybe one time, that's the reminder that the plant was giving you. And now it's for you to build off of, and to do something with. So when we get almost addicted isn't the right word, but when we get addicted to going back and touching it that way, it becomes imbalanced. It becomes harmful.
Well, yeah. And it's basically, if you're like, know what you're being called to. Like I've talked about plenty of times after my, breakup with my kid's father, I did 8 months of celibacy where I literally did ayahuasca every month with extreme intention to get all the dead out of my system from that relationship, and to never call in the same relationship over and over like I had.
And that was the therapy you chose. Yeah.
Right. But I went at it with extreme intention, and I went at it extremely called to do it. So that's the key here, is like whether or not you're called. But then I also think, I don't know if you've seen the meme where there's a guy coming out of a cave and he's like, I'm gonna go do more medicine. And there's a shadow behind him that's like, integrate me.
Like, please just integrate me.
So just remember though, like I was doing the work each month on that specific journey of mine, which had a lot to do also with reclaiming my sexuality and all of the healing and all of that. But just also remembered, like jumping from experience to experience, or jumping from the sauna to the ice bath in your spirituality, it doesn't leave much time for integration. And then it's like, well, why are you really doing it? It's almost because you're trying to reach this point of consciousness instead of like actually becoming integrated. So
I think a very beautiful way to think of it too, and maybe it's more scientific, but to think about our cellular turnover, right? Because our cells in our bodies, as they turn over, we're imprinting them with different things, whatever we eat, whatever we drink, medicines we take, experiences we have. That genetically is literally changing us on a cellular level, but cells can only turn over at a certain rate. So if we can consider that and think about, well, how quickly can I integrate medicine if I'm just jumping from one ceremony to the next, my cells are only turning over so fast. There's only so quickly I can integrate into my actual physical being, because this is the vessel I have, this is what I'm here to do. So slow down enough so your cells have time to actually integrate what you're doing.
And also slow down enough to where you can ground yourself, because a lot of these experiences, like a lot of people love to do I.A.K.P and ketamine and things like that, but then they love to do I.A.K.P as like a grounding, mechanism. But I think it's so important.
I don't know what I.A.K.P is.
So I.A.K.P is like a tobacco that you get, that gets like blown up your nose, and it's very energetically clearing. It is very grounding. But I notice that when people are doing them all the time as a form of getting grounded, they become less grounded because they're so dependent on that. Or like the ketamine, every time they socialize, it's become their alcohol, so it's like these things can become dependent even though they're not addictive, and they can become grounding even though their use is for grounding. It depends on how you're using it and how intentional you are, and how aware you are of the effect it's having on you. And so I just think it's very important that we treat these as sacred medicines.
Tools to touch the inside, which is where we really get the power from. And externally, like abusing external resources is damaging. As we know, this is what addiction looks like. It's what codependency is. We're using something outside of us, whether it's person or thing or drug, whatever, to connect us back to us. And the thing is, we don't need that. Sometimes it's a beautiful way to do it. We don't need it.
Yeah. And I don't want to discourage people from doing the work that they're called to do, but I also want to say that while I'm taking this sacred pause, I have reached these altered states of consciousness, or these altered these other dimensions, without medicine. And maybe I'm calling on the medicine in my, in my space, but through movement, like dance in my room, where I'm calling in like snake energy, I have fully like felt snake medicine in my body. And I like felt like it's taken over. I have with my partner, he has led me through breath work before intimacy, where we are doing certain movements, certain eye gazing, certain breath work, where we're also like putting our third eye to each other. It sounds all really woo woo and like very, very vulnerable. But there were times when we were doing that I was like fully like felt like I was on a psychedelic, because that's how powerful Kundalini practices and tantric energy, practices are.
So you can get there other ways.
Yeah. And then just sitting at my altar and calling on my guides and using that resource and connecting to source, I have fully felt at times like I was on ayahuasca. So just remember that if you are needing a sacred pause, it doesn't mean that you're not getting to attend ceremony, or that you're not connecting to those dimensions or that altered state of consciousness, because it is very much still possible.
Yeah. You create your own ceremony. You create you turn the mundane into the sacred, for sure.
Yeah. And again, I want people to do what they're called to do, but with this particular drug, with Kambo, I do want people to know the risks. I want them to know that much water may be the factor. And I do want I.A.K.P to be held responsible, that they're not getting the word out there about what's happening with people.
There are some dangers there for sure. So hopefully this episode was helpful for anybody who's, interested in experimenting in that realm. And it's not something to deter you, like you said, from dancing with these different modalities that can be so extraordinarily healing. Although the risks do need to be, the whole point of people going out and taking their own risk, risking their own lives literally to do some of these medicines and experiment with the stuff that doesn't have government regulations around it, is so that other people can also take the same journey. We are learning from it. And this is one of the teachings.
I call myself a guinea pig. Like I say, I'm going to go out and try these things.
But you don't always have to be first.
But yeah. So I also, though, just want to make a point to say that, the practitioner himself, was not at fault here. He was very, very supportive in the healing journey. My community, showed love in all of the ways that they show love, that made me feel very held. And my partner basically was a caretaker for a month. And
thank you, Tom.
Yeah. And I'm super, super thankful that, all of those people showed up in that experience. So
yeah, I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah.
I was like, Jade, don't ever do that again.
Yeah, I will not. That's the thing. Like if anyone asked me, even though I don't want to demonize the medicine. If anyone asked me if they should do Kambo, my answer would still be no.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a woman. There is a big man like Big Pygmy. I don't know, but I do not. Yeah, if any woman asked me if she should do Kambo, I would discourage it. So,
well, I'm glad we're getting the word out, and everyone take it with a grain of salt and do your own research, of course, as we always say in our disclaimer on the show, and love and blessings to everybody.
So, like I said in the beginning of the show, this was a different episode than most. In the meantime, please go ahead and, if you feel called, share this episode, because we really, really want people to know, about the risks, and we want A.A.K.P to take notice that people are hearing about the risks, and then leave us a review and follow us on our Instagram account at the Majic Hour.
And y'all, you know what to do. If you want to listen to another episode, you can go check out our podcast library now.